Extra extra, read all about it. Welcome to the Empires Recap, and today we will be going over the chaos and drama of our somewhat respected rulers. This week, we have reached episode 2 territory from Ollie, and apologies if this is late. One of our narrators came to the meeting and derailed the whole thing by 3 hours. This week includes another rare Ollie sighting, a few casual threats, and a feeling that every DM understands. Side note, all statements about the Empire's creators are meant from a place of love and appreciation. Even the people we love deserve to get roasted sometimes. We're back again, boys, with a novelty, a second episode from Ollie Orion sound. He's still stuck in the cage and singing about it. For all that he denies he's a bard, he sure is acting like one. After day 20, there's no more live, laugh, loving in that cage anymore with the thunder and the rats. Eventually, he gets a visitor in Lizzie, who only arrives to help Flip and doesn't really want to help him at all. There must be a reason he's stuck in the cage. The cage was a lonely existence. Until today. Flip shows him to the sheriff, and they agree that Ollie should pay off his debt through work at the tavern, making use of his bardic talent until he earns them 64 diamonds. Not saying anything, but seems kinda corrupt. Original song, Goblin Rail. It is loved by the one person in the tavern that isn't a goblin, the sheriff. His first performance ends up his last, as he makes a deal with Flip and is kicked out of the goblins to see if he can earn enough diamonds to pay off the rest of the 64 he apparently owns. He's free from the cage. Even though he's in debt, it could still be worse. He finds himself in Animalia, disturbed by the foxes on 2 legs, and then finds Stratos, which goes well. Things have changed around here with those weirdos and LARPers. Even in the archipelago back where he began, he finds things have changed. His mega base is gone, and all that's left is a campfire and a boat. Enough is enough, and Ollie leaves the dragon egg on the fire and takes to the sea to find where he was dropped into this world and beg Pearl to take him back to Afterlife. He discovers strange skull-shaped islands and maybe some curses that he doesn't know about, but in the end, he can't find the island, only the world border. He's still trapped in a cage. This one, the gods aren't listening to his plight, and a thunderstorm starts on the way home. He spots a pirate in the dark storm, who seems to mistake him for a Skeletron guy and pulls a gun on him. His boat is sunk by said gun, and he drops to the bottom of the ocean, accepting his fate. However, the gods must find his plight amusing as he wakes up on the shoreline of a rather colorful empire. A man finds him and takes care of him while he recovers from whatever that was in the tavern. There's a lot of it about. And he plays Seabat when he wakes up next to a rabbit villager who ends up being his friend Sausage's dad. Sausage is the man who found him on the shoreline, and this would be more wonderful news if Sausage actually remembered him as anything other than the bard that everyone's been talking about. He's not a bard! Now that he's recovered, he asks about some new clothes, and Sausage takes him to Glimmer Grove with Princess Catherine and soon takes his leave. Catherine gets to work on the outfit, and clearly didn't get the memo that he's not a bard. He got it for free though, so maybe he can make the best out of it? By the time he gets to the archipelago, he's come around to the outfit, and decides if he's forced to stick around, he's gotta have a better house than a beach. He builds a brilliantly colorful tent, and it represents something greater. The start of an empire. We might even see in episode 3, with an ominous pan to the dragon egg on the fire, as the song he plays becomes more scrambled audio than anything else.
Something dark is brewing in Empires this week, and Shelby Shuffle is looking to protect the Evermore from whatever's coming. It's a good idea to enchant Tortoise, make sure that he's safe, but as she goes to do that, she spots the head of a man she's never seen before, in the corner of her room. She makes Tortoise her official familiar and turns him purple, which should scare anyone that tries to mess with him. She notices too that the outside of the Evermore doesn't seem to be a savanna anymore. The mangrove is expanding and swallowing her into its depths. Ignoring your problems is a theme for this series, and honestly not the best habit to get into. Shelby opens the door of her home to find an unmoving sausage with a skeleton head on, ominously standing in her doorway. She tries to wake him up, but only succeeds in killing him.
Some soup? I got some in the cauldron on the fire right now. Not that cauldron, actually, the big one outside, that's the food one. You didn't lick the toad, did you? I know he looks like grapes, but please don't lick the toad.
Drops a golden apple with the label, "Please help Sausage, he's in a lot of trouble." She'll do her best. Mysterious apple that should probably not be consumed. She takes a visit to Sanctuary to leave him with a potion of strength, and well, he seems to be having many problems of his own, let alone the sleepwalking. He doesn't seem to be the only one inhabiting his body. Anyway, a visit to the Glimmer Grove with the mangrove propagule is Shelby's hope to bring Catherine good luck, and a trip to Joey's with a threat is all the travelling she wants to do in a thunderstorm. She has another clock from Sausage in her inventory when she gets back home.
I'm not running out of time. I got all the time in the world. I have nothing that is impending on me whatsoever. It's definitely not me who's running out of time.
It gives her the idea to cure him like a villager with a weakness potion and a golden apple he dropped while sleepwalking. Although, before she can, she wants to collect some crying obsidian to finish her base first, so a trip to the Nether is in order. She arrives at her fortress, but before she can go searching for piglins, she spots a change in her wither skeleton farm. There are some odd towers that have been built, and her summoning circle is broken. This can only spell disaster.
Surely that doesn't mean something else came through, right? It was probably just these guys and they got a little bit crazy in here and broke the circle. I'm gonna keep that one to myself. Yeah, I'm sure it was just the wither skeletons, they broke it.
Ignoring that, her trip to the Nether is complete, and so she works on an enchanting tower, but halfway through she hears a shrieker go off in the distant fog, calling to her. Not something she wants to listen to, thanks. Getting out of the Evermore, she takes the enchanted apple Sausage drop, and the weakness potion to go to Sanctuary to give her idea a try. And so, like a villager, she throws the weakness potion and the apple at Sausage. He's a zombie. That was definitely not supposed to happen.
Sausage has announced names of subscribers who will now work in Sanctuary shops, and that he'll be putting a list of Empire Sonas in the future town hall. After helping Jem and Jimmy with some warden problems...
Sausage, get on him quickly!
I'm gonna get on him! What do you think this is?
No, I meant put the line on him quickly now!
Sausage sorts through his shulkers while wishing for a cleaning service. Wrong SMP, Sausage. Shelby comes by to check on him, saying that she might have a cure to his nightmares and visions. One weakness potion, golden apple later, Sausage is now a zombie. Now that he is friends with the zombies, villagers don't like him. He decides that death may be the best option. However, nothing he does works. Not Dolores, drowning, or even pandas. However, Hermes is back, and the two decided to use his new state to play some pranks. First they scare Jem, before meeting with False to trade wood. After Lizzie is scared, he decides to go to St. Pearl for help. She leads him to a village he rescues from a raid, before he continues to find a summoning circle. After getting instructions from a bunny, he fixes it up and gets a villager to watch over it. He gains a rebirth totem, as well as a few others he can now trade with. And where did those red sheep come from? Moving on. Once he reaches Sanctuary, he sacrifices himself and is reborn as the old Sausage once more.
Cogsmead is the name of Idea Force's empire as of today, and she begins by taking some villagers to the zombification station. Now that books are a lot cheaper, she can take some to Flip in return for the emeralds he gave her. Before that though, she goes to stock up on the balloon she has on the Great Bridge, before getting jump scared by pigs. The dodo is a lot bigger than her. Despite the initial scare, she ends up trading some books for some frog lights, and has decided that everyone seems friendly enough, so she can let her guard down a bit. However, upon her return, she notices the Pumpkin Man has moved. Let's ignore that for now. For now, she builds, starting with a cozy yet slightly unnerving book storage room, as well as a small bridge to where she plans to build a village.
The ruler of Chromia is back and with a bit of trouble. Flip's wedding gift he left in Chromia somehow managed to escape and is attacking all the barn animals when Scott logged on to stream. His defeat of the escaped warden isn't the only thing that happens this week, however. He builds a small little village to put his villagers inside for trading. He's not going to encroach on False's villager trade, but having his own mending villager can't hurt. He adds mending to his tools and takes a trip to the nether roof to use the gold farm to heal them. When he exits, however, he is immediately confronted by Joel's massive portal. It's obvious Joel is compensating for something. With his newly repaired tools, he digs out an area to put in a winding path through his new little village and fills it in with brick. Hopefully the new citizens of Chromia like their accommodation, because they don't get much of a choice in living there. At least it's cute.
Builder Jimmy is out in full force at the beginning of this episode. He shows off his new windmill for Tumbletown and decorated the area. Finally, he has made some progress on the railway. Not a lot of progress, but better than none. Now the market for terracotta doesn't seem to be selling, but that's likely because the Tumbletown bandits are back in business. Jimmy takes a trip back to their original base to find signs warning him off. Of course he doesn't listen. He adventures inside and sees they've patched up the holes he blew in the cave last time, but none of them seem to be home. Opening a barrel at the end makes a curious target block appear, which triggers an elevator under his feet and takes him down to the depths of the operation. He defeats the bandits for the second time and loots the place of all its riches. Busting through the employees-only door, he finds a mud farm. That's where the mud came from in place of his profits. Back in Tumbletown, he checks up on his other businesses and takes down the bandits' banners at a terracotta shop. One thing the sheriff didn't think of, though, was the bad omens effect he got from those bandits. He accidentally starts a raid in outer Tumbletown and calls upon Scott for help. He makes the raid a canon thing instead of a mistake. The raid is totally the bandits' response to Jimmy attacking the operation. Totally. Scott, of course, uses his help for his own purpose to extract a large favor from Tumbletown when necessary. Jimmy takes a look at the weird shrine in the center of Tumbletown and realizes it's probably a threat from Joel. In a livestream, he stole every sheriff toy in the toy barn, had a strange recollection of a donkey Jeremy while there, and hid them in the floorboards. He's heard rumors of competition in the gunpowder industry, and he wants to investigate. A visit to Joey's illicit gunpowder farm with some torches takes care of that, and he leaves some signs to let Joey know it's time to make a deal.
Pirate Joe starts his episode showing off his guns, and not the kind that fire bullets. With an apparent competitive suitor in Shelby, he just wants to make sure Catherine sees all that she's getting from her boyfriend, you know? His goal this week is to make a parrot shop in the town square, which is totally not traumatizing for Pirate Parrot Pete living next door. The building itself goes up right across from the gateway, and it's starting to tie the whole color scheme together. A few gifts borrowed from a nearby flower field, and the shop is ready to open. Except for the lack of parrots, of course. Joey wants every kind of parrot in the shop, regardless of how many varieties there are. He doesn't know. The first one he finds is the one he found long ago, dutifully waiting in the grass near the new lighthouse. Joey totally hadn't forgotten about him. When he comes back to drop off the parrot, however, Joey's faced with a sign-based ultimatum. Stop farming gunpowder or deal with the sheriff. Well, if Jimmy's going to arrest him again, then Joey has another reason to show off his guns. But first, the birds. Joey heads out into the jungle, throwing seeds at parrots and inexplicably sliding into an American attempt at a British accent that almost makes me prefer the innuendos. Never mind. With parrots in tow and a few decorative parrot heads in his bag, Joey heads home to Eversea, settling the birds into their new home. They need nests, and Tumbletown is conveniently close to a coral reef, so Joey stops in to see that Jimmy, despite complaining about Joey's supposedly competing farm, has still not restocked his shop. He returns home with the coral, only to remember that you can't have both coral and scaffolding cages in the same space. Oh well. And finally, Joey learns the hard way that moving birds is just as difficult as moving villagers, except these can also fly. He finally gets them into cages, in pairs. This server's just full of lovebirds, isn't it? Pixlriffs has two things on his mind: architecture and agriculture. He begins his episode on an aqueduct that's been under construction to explain how a city of this size could stay watered and fed. Don't worry, none of his manual crop farms are designed to step on anyone else's toes, unlike some people. Joey! He's more focused on his own trading, and making Froglight seem like a product that could actually have come from this Golden Empire. It would also help to set up a shop that people can visit when he's offline, instead of always needing to play wandering Froglight salesman. Pix comes up with the idea of Froglights growing on trees, like apples, grown in an orchard in the farming district, but slowly spreading through the Empire after its ruin, the way seeded fruits tend to spread. A convenient and organic way to light all the roads he's building. The question now is, where does the name Froglight come from if you take frogs out of the process? We rejoin Pix with the mountainside now covered in custom spruce trees. Who said all of the savannah had to be a hot biome? There's also been more definition added to the wheat farming area, with broken walls separating the overgrown fields. And the real reveal is the Froglight trees. 3 different kinds for the 3 different Froglight varietals. At this rate, I'm surprised he didn't find a way to incorporate the golden ratio into the leaf patterns themselves. Though if he did, even more bravo, sir. A brief break pops us past the building facades on the avenue on Pix's path to check out False's addition to the Great Bridge. A hot air balloon iron shop sounds quite handy to have nearby. Back to the trees, it's time for an orchard time-lapse. Rows on rows of glowing trees lighting up the fields outside the city walls certainly explains why Pix has so many Froglights to sell. But what's that flash of blue between the trees? Why, it's a giant dodo bird, of course. In bringing back a dead empire, Pix has brought an extinct species with it, and a herd of birds is roaming the new orchard, and he's incredibly excited. After a few rounds of the Dodo Olympics, Pixlriff chooses the best all-around dodo for his mount, and gives him an appropriately extinct name. To anyone watching this named Winchester, I'm sorry. And as expected, we've got round 2 of Behind the Lore this week, delving into the creation of the Tumbletown Bandits. Pix has had the idea for a bandit hideout ever since Jimmy became the sheriff, and considering the main export of gunpowder was lacking, it also served as an opportunity to get Jimmy into the business of terracotta selling, without having to tear down the mesa he lives in. If Jimmy didn't know that mud means one can turn dirt into terracotta, he will now. The pillagers are doing it right under his nose. He finds the perfect cave entrance, complete with rare red sandstone above it, and starts digging. The generated cave now quickly turns into the beginnings of a mine, complete with a small waterfall running a stream to a storage area full of dirt. And a dead end? Not dead at all. Opening the barrel reveals an elevator down into the real meat of the illegal operation, with minecarts carrying half-processed goods to their destinations. Pix plans a boss's flag, the pillager captain's banner, to unlock the iron door to the drying room, even though he repeatedly acknowledges that an iron door is no match for a pickaxe. Do you think he still has some profit in there somewhere? Pix has learned a lot from building the Skull Fort. He uses rails to block the pillagers' pathfinding to hopefully keep them in place, and even leaves extra banners and instruction books around so that the mobs can't ruin the puzzle by killing themselves and despawning. Speaking of pillagers, it's handy that the nearest outpost isn't too far. They're almost easier to move than villagers if you don't mind getting shot at a few times, and soon all the actors are in their places. Trying to prevent the elevator from leaving without Jimmy and the sheriff falling to his death, Pix switches up the activation, tying it to a hidden target block revealed by opening the barrel. A little more decoration, and a pop-up shop with a pillager-colored balloon, and these bandits are ready for action. It seems that Pix had a little too much faith in the sheriff, who blew up the mine entrance and then didn't notice the target because he was standing in the wrong place. But the bandits, and Pixlriffs, aren't so easily deterred. He rebuilds the entrance, accepts that the pillagers are just in a pit now, highlights the elevator, and even leaves some extra goodies around for Jimmy, if he's good with the crossbow.
By now we know that the sheriff isn't all that quick on the uptake, let's see if he's at least quick on the draw.
At least we can say that Pix has had the true Dungeon Master experience now. A player ignoring the sets and important NPCs, and taking the shortest path to solving their problems.
Join us next week for more chaos and shenanigans. Thank you for watching, and thanks to everyone for helping out with the project. Check them all out below.